Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a trailer breakdown for Aquaman. Our very first look at Aquaman begins at a lighthouse being tended to by Arthur Curry's father in a scene that takes place prior to his birth. It's in the middle of a storm where Arthur's father sees Queen Atlantis washed up on some rocks from the sea. During this, Aquaman narrates about who his parents were. His father was a lighthouse keeper and his mother was a queen, and we see some scenes of the two together before Arthur's born, and Atlantis tells baby Arthur that he'll unite their worlds one day. We then cut to Arthur as a child in an aquarium where two older boys see Arthur, as they call him, so it sounds like we'll be getting some Australian actors trying to do American accents in this. The two older boys start to beat up Arthur, but the shark in the tank behind them starts to knock against the glass until it starts to crack. Arthur is able to calm the shark down, but we see his eyes glow yellow before the other sea creatures in the tank float behind him in a pattern. Narration Aquaman explains that he's this way because of his parents. We then go even further to an adult Arthur infiltrating a submarine filled with men dressed in black with guns, quipping, "Permission to come aboard?" before we see him throw a few of them around. After the DC logo, Mira arrives to tell Arthur that she's been looking for him because his brother, King Orm, is planning to declare war on the surface. We then see a giant wave pick up a boat from the water and crash it into the shore by a road that Arthur is driving on, presumably caused by Orm. After the wave hits their truck, we see Arthur, Mira, and what looks like Arthur's dad in the aftermath of it, so it looks like he'll still be alive in the present this film starts in, with Mira saying that the only way to stop Orm is for Arthur to become king. We get a shot of a king-like figure who looks like Arthur in the Atlantean throne room slamming the trident onto the ground. This seems to be King Atlan. Arthur then tells Mira he's no king before they show a scene of Arthur stopping a blade with his bare hands and snapping it in two. Over a few more action scenes cut together, Mira tells Arthur that he does his best thinking when he's not thinking at all. It then cuts to what's obviously a different scene, this one underwater, of Arthur telling possibly someone else that what they just said is the worst pep talk ever. We get a tracking shot over the ocean before the camera goes down into the water and we get our first look at Atlantis. The city is covered with lights and mostly done in blues and purples. The buildings seem to resemble jellyfish. Mira and Arthur are in a fish-shaped submarine-like craft going through the water and passing some turtles. Mira welcomes him home, and Arthur lets out a big woo. We then see some kind of Atlantean arena where Orm tells the onlooking audience that his brother has come from the surface to challenge him. Arthur and Orm cross the Quindent and Trident, standing opposite each other in full armor, so it looks like this is the part where Arthur first officially declares a challenge on Orm for the throne. The audience is none too pleased with Arthur's challenge, as they show with a shot of a line of them giving the thumbs down, Roman style. We see at least two different scenes of Arthur and Orm fighting edited together, while Arthur tells Orm that this is called an ass-whooping. One of the blows between the two of them sends out a fourth wave powerful enough to stagger the crowd, who, after a beat, begin to cheer. So Arthur may be winning them over. This is followed by a scene of Arthur picking up a submarine out of the water, possibly the one he infiltrated at the beginning of the trailer, as he's wearing a similar outfit to the one he had there. Arthur then says that he's no leader, saying that he only came back because he had no choice. It then shows Orm throwing the Quindent, which then cuts to a teenage Arthur catching it by its tips and training with someone on the beach. So it looks like this version wasn't totally separated from the Atlantean part of his lineage for most of his life. Over the similar yellow eye effect to before, we see a teenage Arthur and what looks like Orm swimming together. So the two were partially raised together, and he seems to be the one who Arthur's training with on the beach. Over Arthur saying he only came back to protect his home and the people he loves, we see shots of Mira, Arthur and his dad hugging, and his parents holding him as a baby again. As Mira tells him that being of two worlds makes him even more worthy to be a king, we see a scene of Mira and Arthur diving off a ship that's covered in those fish creatures from the magazine cover into a giant tidal wave. Next, we see a flare going past a giant sea creature, Black Manta removing his helmet, Mira jumping across rooftops, the Fisherman King, Mira and Arthur swimming together, another shot from one of the fights between Orm and Arthur, and an army of sharks facing down an army of giant seahorses. In the next scene, we get to see Black Manta in full costume, shooting eye lasers at Arthur. The trailer culminates in a giant CG battle between a force of sea creatures, while Orm says, "This war has come to the surface world, and I'm bringing the wrath of the seven seas with me." After the title, we get a final scene of Arthur and Mira on some kind of plane carrying animals. Mira says that they've made it to wherever they need to be, and then opens the door and jumps out. When the pilot pointed out that she didn't have a parachute, Arthur says, "Redheads, gotta love 'em," before jumping right after her. This deeply confuses the GOAT. So this appears to be the same trailer that was shown a little while ago, but more finalized. This does give us a good look at Arthur's backstory elements and how they've changed. He seems to be more connected to Orm than they have in previous versions of the story as they grew up together, and unlike recent versions, his dad is still alive. We also get our first look at Black Manta in action, and he looks great. Exactly like you'd want him to. The only real issues I have with the trailer is that a lot of the quips thrown in, like the one of Mira saying that Arthur's best thinking is done when he's not thinking, and Arthur's ass-whooping line, don't really connect to what was just said, so they come across like non-sequiturs and break the flow. But otherwise, it's a solid first trailer and gives a good first impression for the film. But what do you guys think of the trailer? Well, as always, let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Stay tuned to the Hybrid Network for more SDCC coverage 2018, and this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.